Israeli jets conducted several strikes on Syrian military assets in the southern Daraa province on March 10th, targeting radar systems and detection equipment in the latest operation against infrastructure following the Assad regime's collapse. The Israel Defense Forces confirmed the strikes were aimed at eliminating future threats to Israel and its operations. According to Syrian security sources, at least 6 strikes hit a base in the town of Jabab, whilst at least another 8 targeted a former army base in the city of Isra, north of the main southern city of Daraa.
The fighter jets hit radar systems and detection equipment used to build an aerial intelligence picture, along with headquarters and military sites containing weapons and military equipment belonging to the Syrian regime in southern Syria.
The UK-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported that Israeli fighter jets carried out 17 strikes across 2 military positions, the former regime's Artillery Regiment 89 and the 12th Brigade. Israeli officials have vowed to demilitarize southern Syria following Bashar al-Assad's fall from power. Since December, Israel has intensified its military campaign, with the Syrian Observatory documenting more than 500 Israeli air attacks on Syrian targets between 8th and 31st December alone, with 21 further documented attacks occurring in the first months of this year. The Israeli military has also dispatched troops into a UN-patrolled buffer zone, separating Israeli and Syrian forces on the strategic Golan Heights, where it maintains a military presence following the Assad regime's collapse late last year. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated last month that southern Syria must be completely demilitarized, warning that his government would not accept the presence of the new Damascus government's forces near Israeli territory. Defense Minister Israel Katz has indicated that troops will remain deployed to 9 army posts in the area indefinitely. Most Israeli attacks have targeted facilities and weapons previously held by the toppled regime's forces, which Israel describes as a bid to prevent military assets from falling into the hands of forces hostile to the Jewish state. Alawite leaders in Syria have reportedly appealed to Israeli authorities, asking Jerusalem to swiftly send troops to protect their community amidst escalating sectarian violence following the fall of the Assad regime.
Following the fall of Assad's regime, and after the massacres that took place in Alawite areas against our people, we call on the Israeli government to provide protection, assistance, and support.
The Alawites noted that Israel was the only country to condemn crimes committed against their community when the whole world was keeping silent and inactive in the face of the injustice. In an unprecedented appeal, the Alawites referred to Israelis as sons of David and respected brothers, pledging loyalty. We reach out to you and will be your most loyal and good friends. The message requested Israeli military intervention on multiple fronts, asking the Israel Defense Forces to send planes and troops, whilst calling on the Israeli Defense Ministry to dispatch warships to the Syrian coast. They urged the Israeli Foreign Ministry to raise the issue of crimes against Alawites at the international level. In a striking promise, the Alawite leaders assured Israel, "Help us, and if you reach the Syrian coast, which is mostly Alawite, you will be received with songs and flowers." Fierce fighting erupted on 6th of March in various areas of Latakia between Syrian security forces and armed groups supporting former Syrian President Bashar Assad. The violence has been particularly intense in Jableh, home to many Alawites, the religious minority to which the Assad family belongs. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based war monitor, reports that more than 1,000 civilians have died since the violence began in killings, field executions, and ethnic cleansing operations by security personnel or pro-government fighters in the coastal heartland of the Alawite community. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has called for international condemnation of Syria's new Islamist rulers following reports of mass killings in the country's Alawite heartland. They were jihadists and remain jihadists, even if some of their leaders have donned suits, Sa'ar said at a Knesset meeting of his New Hope faction, referring to interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa. Sa'ar has repeatedly warned world leaders against trusting the new regime, which emerged from Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, an Islamist faction that led the campaign to topple Assad, and that evolved from a group formerly affiliated with al-Qaeda until cutting ties in 2016. The Israeli foreign minister declared, "The international community must come to its senses. It must raise its voice against the barbaric murder of civilians, against the pure evil of jihadists." Sa'ar confirmed his prior warnings about potential violence against minorities had proven accurate.
Over the weekend, it was proven that my warnings, unfortunately, were accurate. HTS operatives mercilessly massacred their own people, their own citizens. This does not surprise anyone familiar with their terrorist past.
The Israeli minister urged global leaders to stop granting free legitimacy to a regime whose first actions are such atrocities, insisting they must draw conclusions from what has happened and examine ways to protect minorities in Syria. Sa'ar also emphasized Israel's concerns about potential threats from Syria during a meeting with Luxembourg's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Xavier Bettel.
Syria is home to thousands of Hamas and Islamic Jihad operatives who seek to ignite our border and create an additional front against Israel. We are resolute in preventing a recurrence of October 7th across all fronts. We will not allow the formation of a jihadist threat on our border with Syria.
Meanwhile, Defense Minister Israel Katz has taken an equally harsh stance against the new Syrian leadership, calling interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa a jihadist terrorist of the al-Qaeda school who is committing horrifying acts against a civilian population. In a wide-ranging interview with Reuters, Syrian interim President Ahmed al-Sharaa dismissed Israeli threats and Minister Katz's comments as nonsense. "They're the last ones who can talk," al-Sharaa said, referencing Israel's military campaigns in Gaza and Lebanon over the past 18 months. Al-Sharaa acknowledged that mass killings of Alawites threatened his mission to unite the country, but promised to punish those responsible, including his own allies if necessary. He blamed pro-Assad groups backed by foreign powers for triggering the bloodshed, but admitted that revenge killings had occurred in the aftermath.
Syria is, as we have confirmed, a state of law. The law will take its course on all, and we originally fought the regime and reached Damascus to defend the oppressed people. And we won't accept that any blood be shed unjustly, or goes without punishment or accountability. Whoever he is, even if he were among those closest to us or the most distant from us, there is no difference in this matter. Violating people's sanctity, violating their religion, violating their money, this is a red line in Syria. This is not only a constitutional law, but it is also a moral law.
Israel has announced its willingness to defend Syria's Druze community following the days of violence in Syria. Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer described the recent events as a massacre of civilians and stated that Israel was prepared, if needed, to defend the Druze, though he provided no details on how this might be implemented. The Druze are Arabs who practice a religion widely considered an offshoot of Islam, with minority communities existing in Israel, Syria, and Lebanon. Israel has a small Druze community, and there are approximately 24,000 Druze living in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, which Israel captured from Syria in the 1967 Six-Day War. On March 1st, Netanyahu and Katz instructed the military to be ready to defend a Druze town in the suburbs of Damascus from Syrian government forces. In a related development, Israel announced on Sunday that it would allow Syrian Druze to work in the Golan Heights, where many have family ties.